And I think what we'll see is the world will reduce down to 10 currencies or 5, the Chinese currency, the US dollar, the euro, right? The only way currency can exist is for the government to stay viable. I think that what you're going to see is that if there's 180 countries or something out there, I think that 15 or 20 of them keep their currency privileges. I think the bottom 100 are going to lose their currencies. I think they're going to dollarize first. Everybody wants to, but how do I dollarize? The best way to dollarize is the El Salvador strategy, which is I have a mobile application which has got dollars and it's got Bitcoin on the Lightning Network. What you want is you want a currency as a medium of exchange. It's like a stable value coin, stable versus all of the pricing of the retailers. And that's like a dollar. It's probably the most stable thing in the universe. And then you want an asset, which is an appreciating token that will hold its value over time. And that's Bitcoin. And if you wanted to maximize your utility, you kind of put 90% of your balance sheet into the asset, into Bitcoin. And then you put the last piece, the working capital or the checking account, into whatever's the currency that most of the retailers that you're surrounded with take. So if I was in Japan, I'd be holding 1 month worth of yen. And if I was in Italy, I'd be holding 1 month worth of euro. And if I'm in the US or a dollar economy, I'm holding 1 month worth of dollars. And then the rest I'm sweeping into my long-term asset portfolio or property portfolio. And my stock of property is, maybe I buy a property to live in because it's a nice house and I want to live in it for the rest of my life and I can't rent it, maybe. Then maybe I buy my trophy art, or, maybe I buy the picture because I love the picture, or maybe I buy the car, or maybe I buy the boat, or maybe I buy the plane or something because I want to fly in it, float in it, live in it, whatever I want to do. But all my discretionary asset, I would put into the highest quality property, which is, of course, Bitcoin. So generally, I think what you're going to see is $100 trillion worth of capital flow out of investment properties in the developed world into Bitcoin, and the currencies, the euro, the dollar will get stronger. By stronger, I don't mean stronger in purchasing power. I mean, you'll probably see the dollar become a currency used in El Salvador, and you'll see it used in Venezuela, and you'll see it spread to Argentina. And why wouldn't you see it spread to every country in Africa? Like, name a currency in Africa that you would prefer to hold in your wallet versus the dollar. Like, none, I think, right? Is there a better currency than the dollar in Africa? But if I have $10,000, I'm probably going to hold $50 in my currency wallet. And I'm going to convert the other 9,950 into Bitcoin, because that's my checking account versus savings account. And even then, the best thing, I think, the ideal situation you want to get to eventually is I put 100% of my assets into Bitcoin. And then I have a credit card / credit line, which is drawn against which is converted into local currency, and it is drawn against the Bitcoin. So I have $10,000 of Bitcoin and I want to spend $37. So I spent $37 and now I owe $37 against my 50 million Satoshis. And I never really sell my Bitcoin. I just generated debt against the Bitcoin. And we're a little bit early here, but if your expense ratio is less than your expected appreciation over time, that is to say, if you expect Bitcoin to go up 10% a year, and if you have $1 million in assets and your expenses a year are 50,000, so your expense ratio is 5% a year, and you expect Bitcoin to appreciate at 10% a year. If your expense ratio is less than your expected appreciation over time, you never have to sell anything ever. You can borrow against your assets from now to the end of eternity. Now, it requires that you have a Bitcoin banking sector developed, right? You have to have a credit line against the Bitcoin, and we see that developing in different ways around the world. But ultimately, that would be the ideal situation. You would want to have a situation where you're holding Bitcoin and you're drawing credit lines in the currencies that exist. And I think what we'll see is the world will reduce down to 10 currencies or 5: the Chinese currency, the US dollar, the euro, right? The only way currency can exist is for the government to stay viable. And, there's no Afghan currency right now, right? I mean, it's not going to be one of those. So if you're spending anything, what are you going to be spending, right? It'll probably dollarize. If it isn't, it's already dollarized, right? So I think that what we see is a collapse of currencies to a few. And I think you see the collapse of properties to a few, right? Like, for example, there's 100,000 buildings in the US you can buy for the cost of one Bitcoin. Or you can buy Bitcoin. Which of the two is the easier decision?
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
So presumably, it's like a lot of things that are manufactured as stores of value, a security, a REIT, a bond. It's like, why do I need all that stuff if I can just buy Bitcoin? So I think how will it develop? It'll develop at different rates organically in different countries, in different markets, based upon the culture, based upon the law, based upon, the circumstances of the people, and based on crises, and based on common sense. Right? You're in Argentina. Do you feel safe in Argentina? You have $1 million. Do you want to own $1 million worth of a company in Argentina, a ranch, a building, a gold, a boat, land? Or do you want to own the currency, or do you want to own the Bitcoin? Right? If you're thinking you're going to flee the country, everything I named is worthless except for the Bitcoin. When I had money in Argentina and I was trapped there, I was like, well, can I buy a boat with it? It's like, I either buy gold, I can't get that out of the country. I buy a yacht, I can float that out of the country. But that was before I knew about Bitcoin. So today, if you ask me the question, I'd say buy Bitcoin. It's kind of simple, but that's because I'm leaving. But on the other hand, if you're living in Texas and you like Texas, you might feel like it's okay to own 100 acres in Texas. Maybe you think you feel safe in Texas, and you have a gun, right? And you have some horses, and you have a tractor or a truck or a Jeep. You don't need to smuggle the gun, the Jeep, and the horses across the border tomorrow. So you can own that property. And you feel like, well, Texas is not going to impair the value of my land. So I guess I'm okay there. So I feel like the circumstances of the individual and common sense will dictate your property distributions. But the apex property is always Bitcoin. And in my opinion, which is pretty well known, is if you had $10 million in US dollars converted to Bitcoin, and if you wanted to buy anything, you're best not to sell the Bitcoin. You're best to borrow against the Bitcoin. As long, if the volatility of Bitcoin is going to be plus or minus 80%, then keep your loan to value at 10%. You're safe. And if you're reasonably certain the Bitcoin is going to appreciate at 20% a year, and if you can keep your expenses at 5% a year, and if the volatility is not going to cause a max drawdown of more than 80% a year or 50%, you figure out what the number is. Once you figure out those three calculations, you can get to the point where you decide, I'm just going to hold my assets. I'm going to let my asset appreciate. I'm going to fund my living expenses with debt. If I want to buy something, another asset that I think is an asset, I might still want to borrow against my Bitcoin to buy the other asset. If you actually sell your Bitcoin to buy an asset, that's a diversification. And you could diversify because you want to diversify. That's a personal decision. But if you've got an asset going up 130% a year, and you said to me, Mike, name something else that you think will go up 130% a year that I can diversify into. The answer is I don't have anything, right? Like, if you said to me, okay, well, I got to split my money 50-50, half goes into Bitcoin, what's the other half? I don't know. I guess a portfolio of big tech stocks, maybe. maybe the NASDAQ, maybe a combination of Apple and Amazon and Facebook and Google. You buy some wickedly cool technology, maybe, or you just take a if you want to be very conservative, it's like, I just buy a house that I expect to live in the rest of my life because I know I'm going to get value from that because there's value to me getting up in the morning and being in my space. So that's rational. But I don't expect $1 million house to be worth $1 billion in 20 years. But there are people that put $1 million in Bitcoin and will make $1 billion off of it by holding it.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.